And you know, it's a stressful time for college students. Our expert Bill Prasad has more on that in today's Mental Health Minute.
The pandemic continues to test the resilience of college students, and many are failing. New research by Timely MD says an overwhelming number of college students, 85%, say they continue to be challenged by stress and anxiety as a direct result of COVID-19. About 90% of women report higher rates of stress, with men coming in at 78%. The top causes are uncertainty about the future, fears about falling behind in their studies, and struggles with remote learning. Fears about their health and the health of their loved ones rounded out the list of top concerns. 15% have experienced suicidal ideation. In many cases, the college experience, like living on campus, is as important as the GPA. But the lessons being learned now by many college students is how to ask for help and when to call the Student Counseling Center.